For years, fans and media outlets have been hyping Paige Bueckers as if she was going to be the next big thing. Some even called her the face of women's basketball before she even finished her college career at UConn. But here's the truth. That hype is starting to crumble. And once you compare her to Caitlin Clark, the undeniable superstar rewriting the history books, the Paige Bueckers hype looks more and more like a hoax. WNBA players themselves are exposing the myth. Fans are starting to wake up, and the numbers don't lie. Paige is simply not Caitlin Clark. So today, we're going to break down how this hoax started, why WNBA players are rejecting the Paige Bueckers narrative, and why Caitlin Clark is on another level entirely. Stay tuned. This one's going to be eye-opening. To understand why people are suddenly calling the Paige Bueckers era a hoax, you have to rewind back to 2020. When Paige arrived at UConn, she was a media darling. She was smooth, flashy, and she came from the powerhouse school that gave us Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Maya Moore, and Breanna Stewart. ESPN put the spotlight on her. Social media accounts flooded with her highlights, and people wanted to believe she was the next generational superstar. Paige won National Player of the Year as a freshman, which added fuel to the fire. Overnight, she became the face of college basketball. But here's the thing. The hype wasn't built on dominance against elite competition. It was built on narrative. Unlike Caitlin Clark, who has had to carry Iowa on her back against loaded opponents, Paige has always been surrounded by top-tier recruits and stacked rosters at UConn. Her flashes of brilliance were real, but the media inflated them into something far bigger. And that inflated balloon is finally popping. Another reason the Paige Bueckers hoax has been exposed is because she simply hasn't been consistently available. Yes, injuries are part of the game. And yes, no one is blaming Paige for tearing her ACL or battling multiple injuries throughout her career. But the reality is this. If you're marketed as the next face of basketball, you have to actually be on the court. Paige has missed multiple seasons, crucial tournament runs, and the chance to establish herself as the dominant figure people claimed she would be. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark has been showing up night after night, logging heavy minutes and putting up video game numbers in record-breaking fashion. While Paige was rehabbing, Clark was shattering records. All-time scoring leader, 40-point NCAA tournament games, logo threes, triple-doubles, sold-out arenas. Fans didn't just see Clark play. They felt her impact. So when Paige tried to come back into the spotlight, fans couldn't help but compare. And compared to Clark, the Paige Bueckers story started looking like smoke and mirrors. Here's where things get even more interesting. It's one thing for fans to debate Paige versus Caitlin, but when WNBA players themselves weigh in, you know the truth is surfacing. Many WNBA players, both openly and indirectly, have given Caitlin Clark her flowers while remaining silent or lukewarm about Paige Bueckers. For example, Aya Wilson, Kelsey Plum, and Breanna Stewart have all acknowledged how Caitlin Clark is changing the game. They see the ticket sales, the ratings, the way she carries her team. That's respect. Compare that to Paige Bueckers. You don't hear current WNBA stars lining up to call her the future. You don't hear veterans talking about how she's redefining the game. Why? Because Paige hasn't proven it against elite professional competition. And deep down, WNBA players know that the Paige hype was always a college media creation, not a reflection of reality. Even Diana Taurasi, a UConn legend, recently had to admit that Caitlin Clark has already done more for the game than almost anyone else in history. If Paige was truly on that level, Taurasi and others would be pointing to her. But they aren't. That silence speaks volumes. The biggest reason people are calling Paige Bueckers a hoax is because her popularity feels manufactured. She was crowned the one before she earned it. The hype machine anointed her because she fit a narrative. The blonde, marketable, UConn star who could carry the women's game into the future. But Caitlin Clark? Her stardom isn't manufactured. It's earned. Clark wasn't supposed to be this big. She wasn't at UConn, South Carolina, or Stanford. She didn't have ESPN spoon-feeding her highlights. She made people pay attention by dropping 40, hitting logo threes, and carrying her team to places no one thought possible. Fans saw the realness in that. They didn't need a media campaign to convince them. Caitlin Clark forced the conversation. Paige Bueckers, on the other hand, had the conversation handed to her before she proved anything at the professional level. That's the difference between a media darling and a true superstar. Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers don't just have different narratives. Their games are on completely different levels. Shooting range. Clark can pull up from the logo consistently. She stretches defenses like Stephen Curry. Paige? A solid shooter, but nowhere near the same gravity. Playmaking. Clark leads the nation in assists while scoring 30+ a game. She creates for herself and her teammates. Paige is crafty, but not nearly as high volume or high impact. Look at attendance numbers, jersey sales, and TV ratings. They're all skyrocketing because of Caitlin Clark, not Paige Bueckers. When Clark plays, arenas sell out. When Clark's games air, records are broken. Caitlin Clark has already proven she can handle the transition. Her passing, shooting, and leadership are translating. Even when she gets targeted. Paige? She hasn't even entered the league yet, and some are already skeptical. The hype won't save her once she faces real professionals. If she can't separate herself, the comparison to Caitlin Clark is only going to get worse. Here's why. The media constantly tries to manufacture stars instead of letting greatness naturally shine. That hurts the women's game, because fans can sense when they're being sold a false narrative. With Paige, people were told she was the face of the sport before she proved it. With Caitlin, no one had to be told. The impact was organic, real, and impossible to deny. The Paige Bueckers hoax is a cautionary tale. Let players earn it. Stop forcing the narrative. Stop ignoring true greatness just because it doesn't fit a marketable mold. At the end of the day, Paige Bueckers is a talented player. No one is denying that. But the idea that she was the next face of basketball? That she was on Caitlin Clark's level? That's the hoax. The injuries, the lack of consistent dominance, the silence from WNBA stars, the measurable difference in fan impact. It all adds up. Paige Bueckers isn't Caitlin Clark, and she never was. Caitlin Clark is rewriting history. She's changing the business of the WNBA, inspiring a new generation, and putting women's basketball on the map in ways no one thought possible. Paige Bueckers? She's a good player who was sold as something she's not. And that's why fans, media, and players are finally calling it out. But what do you guys think? Is Paige Bueckers overhyped? Is she a product of media spin? Or do you think she can still prove herself in the WNBA? And most importantly, do you think she will ever be on Caitlin Clark's level? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe for more WNBA updates.